Well, they're finally here. Let's unbox some brand new iPhone 14s. Alright, so these are the brand new iPhones. So this year we got 4 new iPhone 14 announced. The iPhone 14, the iPhone 14 Pro, the iPhone 14 Pro Max. There's one other which isn't currently available that'll be coming later on, and I'll do a separate video on that. That is the iPhone 14 Plus. What is interesting this year is that both the Pro models and the non-Pro models come in this white box. Now previously we saw the Pro models distinguished with this black box. So Apple have done that slightly different this year. Now inside the box, we're expecting pretty much the same as we have before. There's no more plastic wrapper. What we do have is a little pull tab that's used to open up the box. And inside, starting off with the iPhone 14, we've got this in this beautiful blue color. So it's got this kind of, I'd say, gray hint to it, but it certainly is blue in color. You also get not much in the box, just that USB to lightning cable. And we also get some information, including a SIM ejector tool and a single Apple sticker. All right, let's put the iPhone 14 to one side and focus on the Pro models now. So we get the iPhone 14 Pro, which is a 6.1-inch model, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is a 6.7-inch model. Now, both of these colors are pretty special because this one, starting off with the space black, is slightly different from last year. OMG, wow, look at that. That certainly looks like a very, very stealthy black, slightly deeper in the color and the hue. And next is this, the one that I think a lot of people are really excited about. This is the iPhone 14 Pro Max in this beautiful deep purple color. OMG, wow, that looks absolutely stunning. Now, I was lucky enough to see this one at the Apple event, the launch, the announcement, but still, I think it's a really, really nice purple color and hue that Apple have done here. It certainly isn't an in-your-face purple that we've seen with the previous models. This is much, much more subtle. And in different lighting, it actually looks slightly gray. All right, let's pull that off and get this started. All right, let's dive a little deeper. We're gonna take a closer look at the iPhone 14. To begin with, visually, it looks very, very similar to last year's iPhone 13 model, but there are some changes that have happened to this. Now, you still have that beautiful display. It is a Super Retina XDR display. That means you're gonna get incredible vibrancy. It's an OLED display panel with 800 nits of peak brightness, and it will bump up when you're viewing HDR photos and videos up to 1200 nits. So you're gonna get really good viewing experiences throughout. You also have the true depth camera with this familiar design that we've seen in the past couple of models. This is what most people refer to as a notch, and it's on the iPhone 14 models, whereas on the newer models, the iPhone 14 Pro models, that has been updated with the dynamic island, and I'll show you more of that in a moment. But as far as the true depth camera is concerned, that has also been updated with autofocus. That basically means that you're gonna get more clearer shots when you have multiple people in front-facing selfie shots, which is really handy. Now, another important update is on the back when it comes to that dual camera setup. Apple have made improvements to a sensor by giving it a larger sensor and a faster aperture. So that means that throughout the different focal lengths and lighting conditions, you're gonna get an improvement to the various photos that you're able to take, and this also affects videos. But there is also the addition of something called the photonic engine, and this works on computational photography to give you better details, both in low light, but also the inclusion of deep fusion. That gives you the ability for more details with shots taken with that dual camera setup. Now, the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus also have an update when it comes to the chip that's powering it inside. This is the A16 Bionic. Now, there is some improvements here because you get a 6-core CPU and the graphics has been improved with a 5-core GPU. Now, out of all of the models, I'm a big fan of the Pro Max variant because it's just much more functional for me in terms of size and obviously that screen real estate. Now, I've been using the 13 Pro Max for a full year, and what I will say is that there isn't a noticeable difference on the back between these two devices, although that camera bump certainly has had an increase on the Pro Max variation. And what I will say is this is slightly heavier at just a single gram more than the 13 Pro Max. So this comes in at 241 grams as opposed to the 240 grams here. It is a standout display that I've thoroughly enjoyed. Apple have really improved on this, and they've done this in a couple of ways. Number one, it's a new Super Retina XDR display. It is incredibly bright with up to 2000 nits. In environments like this in the Middle East, that is incredibly helpful. Now for HDR quality, it will bump that to 1600 nits for photos and videos. Again, just an improvement overall in the viewing experience. And it also serves with ProMotion. So it means that from 25 Hertz up to 120 Hertz, you have adaptive refresh. And there's also one other thing. It also has always on display, and that will refresh up to 1 Hertz. So if you've got live widgets with iOS 16 set up, it will be able to do that. Now there is a feature to turn off always on. Apple say that it doesn't have an impact, a serious impact on battery life, but that's something that I'll test out and report back in my full review. Now one of the other things that it has, and one of the things that really made me just say, wow, a dynamic island, and it's really ingenious. So let's give you an example. Let's say that I'm playing some music right now, and when I go out of the app, you can see it kind of jump up to the top, and I'm able to see the album art, and I'm also able to see the audio visual cues. So I can press and hold this now, and that will allow me to bring it up in a much more quicker way. But I can also start other applications, and it will show up to 2. So let's say we start this timer, and I'm running this timer. Now look what it does at the top. Can you see I've got both the music playing, and I've also got my timer showing. So it will be a maximum of 2 items at the top. Now if I press and hold, and let's say I turn this off, normal music, it will slowly kind of disappear and then just give me the timer there. It's really cool how that's done. And this works throughout the system. So you'll see this pop up when you're using Apple Pay, when you're unlocking your device. It's a really interesting and cool way. Now, before we talk about the camera and the performance and a few other things, if you like any of the wallpapers that I've been showing in this review, then you can download them as well. They're on my Gumroad, and you will be able to find a link down below. Proceed for all of those wallpapers will go towards charity. One of the other updates on the Pro models this year is on the camera front. We also have the same true depth camera update with autofocus that we saw on the iPhone 14, but on the back, the big update is on the main camera, which is bumping it up to 48 megapixels. Now there's also a new sensor which is 65% larger than the one that we find in the iPhone 13 Pro, and it's also got an improvement to the optical image stabilization. And there's also something called the quad sensor, which basically groups every 4 pixels into a quad pixel or uses each pixel individually, and this is to optimize detail. One of the advantages of the camera update now is that we get everything from 0.5 to 1x to now 2x and 3x, and you're able to go all the way up to obviously 15x. Now at those larger 10 to 15x zoom focal lengths, there is going to be noise, but overall anything from between 0.5 to about 3x that I've tested out is actually really crisp with plenty of detail, great accuracy, color accuracy, and vibrancy throughout. There'll be a full detailed analysis and in-depth review, particularly of the camera, when I have more time with this. So if you'd like to see that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We also get that 4K, cinematic up to 30 frames, and Action Zone as well. And what is interesting in Action Zone is that it does crop the video in slightly up to 2.8K. But check this comparison between the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I think you'd agree there's a noticeable difference in terms of smoothness and stability between the two of them. Let me know in the comments down below, is this a feature you can see yourself using? Now, when it comes to powering the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max, we've got a new chip. It's a 4nm chip, the A16 Bionic. And Apple say that it is a noticeable difference, up to 40% faster compared to the A15 Bionic. Now, across all of the iPhone 14 models this year, there are 2 safety features that were really touted at the launch. The first one is something called crash detection, thanks in part due to a dual core accelerometer that is able to detect G-force. It means that if you get into a collision, in the car, the iPhone 14 models will be able to detect that and then take appropriate action. This is going to hopefully never be needed, but if it is needed in this particular situation, it's going to be an incredibly useful feature to have. Very similar to fall detection, but the other feature is something currently exclusive to North America, to the US and Canada, and that is the emergency SOS feature. This is the ability, if you're out of Wi-Fi, out of cellular connection, to be able to find a satellite in order to call help. Now, it's not designed to allow you to call your friends and kind of be on the phone with them, but it is very specific actions that you can take to get the help that you're needed if you're stuck. Another improvement update across the iPhone 14 models this year is improved battery life. Now, compared with last year, I thought the iPhone 13s did an excellent job with battery life. So this year will be really interesting to test it out. How much more can we get out of these batteries? One other thing which really you can get with the iPhone 14 models, but also with older models going up to the iPhone 8, is the new update to iOS. So we have iOS 16, and really on the newer models, particularly on the Pro models, I feel like iOS 16 really shines. New lock screens that you can customize and adapt to your liking. Those wallpapers and customizations are really cool. As well as that, you also have updates to messages so that you can retract a message within about 15 minutes if you made a mistake, and a few other features here and there that really add to the functionality day to day. And that's a quick unboxing of the iPhone 14, the iPhone 14 Pro, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So the question for you now is, if you were to get one of these phones, which one would it be and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see a hands-on with the brand new Apple Watch Ultra, check this one out over here. I'll see you there next.